So I need you guys to indulge me. I want to take a 60-second warm up. Anybody here have church experience? You grew up in church on Sunday. Look, just church. I was going to say black church, white church. They don't actually operate the same. But so we're going to do a call and response real quick just to help me warm up. Can we do that? All right. I'm not going to use this. I told my mother I was not going to be up here crying. So we're going to sit it right here just in case. All right. So I'm going to say this. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. I want to thank God for everybody in the room. I want to give honor to Noelle, who is a beautiful soul, as we would say. I'm thankful for her and her role in encouraging all of us and connecting all of us and bringing all of us together. Some of us have been in the body of Christ for a long time. Some of us are new, and we're figuring out what this is. God bless you, because you're in for a ride. And even though I did see some men out there, some fathers, I want to give honor to my husband who was not here. He is an amazing man, truly one of a kind, and he has been mine for just over 30 years this year. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful. I know I don't look old enough to have been married for 30 years, but I have, and I was not a teenage bride. The word of God says, and I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our sisters has been thrown down. Did you know he's been thrown down? Who accuses them day and night before our God. And they, who's the they? Us, our sisters, have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And they love not their lives unto death. So that scripture has been life to me, like literally. So if you can follow me, how many like a good story? How many of you skip to the end to read the end to make sure it's a happy? Okay, I skip to the end. I don't like the suspense. I want to know, how does it end? Then I can read the details. So God is in the ending. Our stories are already written before we're ever born. So God saw where I would be today at 50 years old. He saw the deliverance he'd bring in my life. I'm going to tell the story in reverse, guys, in case you can't tell. So it's a happy ending. I need you guys to know that. Your ending is a happy ending. My ending is a happy ending. Everything that happened in my life has not been perfect. I'm walking with a slight limp today. A slight one, because just last night, I don't know if you knew this, Noelle, but I was in here practicing a segment with the worship team, and I was like trying to get back home, and I have guests in from out of town who I adore. And I ran up these stairs, and I did what I had to do, and then I was done, and yes, I can go home, and I ran over here and went to go down the steps and missed a step. I knew that gasp would be there. That was planned. But I missed the whole step. And I'm like, listen, y'all, I said I was 50. You don't fall the same at 50 as you did at 25. You don't do that. It just doesn't happen. So I completely missed a step. Nobody was in here but the worship team and my wonderful sister-in-law who was standing over there. Thank the Lord. But I got down, and guess what? Because I fell hard. I went home, had to rub some stuff on and take some muscle relaxer just to help. But no, guess what happened? I fell, but I got up. So the testimony might be full of falling, but I'm up here today, and you can see it might have been a fall, but I got up. So I want to encourage you wherever you are right now in your story, get up. Don't stay there. Get up. Because the end of the book says, and they, who's the they? They have conquered him. He's already conquered. He's a defeated foe. The enemy is already under your feet. Get up. I walked in depression for almost 50 years and didn't know it. How many of you know it gets worse over time? I developed severe anxiety. Didn't know it. I'm not an anxious person. I'm not a fearful person, but I was. because I became that. Has anybody become that? You're walking in anxiety. You're walking in depression. And maybe you're like me and didn't know it. So between the ages of 5 and 9, I was assaulted. I'm just practicing this. I don't even know how to say it the right way, but that happened. And for the rest of my life, guys, I walked in. Anybody that knew me before today knows I just did life. Wasn't worried about it. My estimation of this was it happened, it's over, it did not affect me. There's no reason to look at it, to bring light to it. It's a non-entity. It's not even a thing. It's just something that happened. But those years were what we call our foundational years. So even though I didn't acknowledge it, the impact was still there. So the impact was seen. I didn't connect the dots, guys. I'm not good at connecting dots. But the Lord connects the dots for us, and He's gracious when He does it. So the impact was seen when I went to school. My mother, I'm on the way home from school, my mother gets a phone call, and my mom is here. I love my mom. Anybody love their mom? So I don't even call her mom. She's mommy. And it's not spelled M-O-M-M-Y. It's M-O-M-M-I-E. So I love my mommy. So she's here. But she tells stories of, she got a call from a neighbor that said, I don't remember the story. There were several stories, Ma. I cussed out somebody's child on the way home from school. I beat up a kid on the way from school. It was always on the way home from school. I remember a day on the bus, and the kid said something when I was walking by, and my response was always, you won't be saying that when we get off this bus. You said it. You won't be saying that after school. And they did not, because I kept my word. I've always been a keeper of my word. So I didn't understand how I adopted the title or label of being a bully. I didn't get that because I was like a nice person, this loving person. And I just love people. People just weren't nice all the time, and they were on the wrong road. They had to be helped to get on the right one. But I wasn't a bully. That is not the definition of a bully. That was not me. So my mother remembers getting these calls from other people's parents, and I would arrive at home after the phone call, very pleasant, because I was a pleasant person. But I remember one day I walked in the classroom at school, and I was a teacher's aide. This is elementary school. I walked in, and kids do what kids do. You know, somebody comes in the room, and they're they're talking because the teacher's distracted. I know that now as an adult with adult children. Back then, I thought they were talking about me. So what did I say? You won't be laughing after school. And they weren't anymore. It had nothing to do with them. It had everything to do with that thing that wasn't a thing, that thing that I didn't even need to acknowledge because it had no impact on my life, but it was impacting my life from behind the scenes. So the Lord did several things for me. He's done amazing. I can't even tell it all. So I'm going to give you bits and pieces. I gave my life to the Lord for real. Like for real, for real. I wasn't playing. And it was one of those, it wasn't me making a deal with God. I'll serve you if you do so-and-so. I'll give my life to you if you. It was, Lord, save me. Because I don't know what's wrong, but I need help. My heart was drawn to Him and had been drawn to Him from the time I was a child. And I was responding to that draw. And I fell down on my knees and cried out to God. And He saved me. And He saved me for real. Now, I've had several redos as I've matured, recommitments as I've matured, but that day He snatched me out of darkness and transferred me to the kingdom of light, and I was so thankful. I was so thankful. My life was different. I lived differently. He saved me. I was committed to building His kingdom and His kingdom alone. Even though I wasn't so clear on what He saved me from, He did it. He honored my prayer. So that was the first one. The second salvation was when I got married. He saved me because what I wasn't acknowledging, what didn't really have an impact on me, was impacting me. And it was beginning to show in some of the decisions I was making away at school. And I remember calling my parents and saying, I was at school on a full scholarship, academic. I was going to be a lawyer. Supreme Court justice was my ultimate goal, and president of the United States, but you can't do both. So I was figuring that out. But the Lord saved me. He stepped into my life, and he arrested my life by not giving me what I prayed for and what I desired, but telling me what his plan was for me and setting my heart in the direction of pursuing that. And part of that plan was this amazing man I've been married to, who is like as even as the horizon and as steady. All of my, I don't use the word instability like to say I'm mentally unstable, although that could be a thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is his absolute stability was what I needed, and I didn't know it. But he has been like the rock of Gibraltar in my life, and his steadiness allows me to be me. It's allowed me to reinvent myself over the years as the Lord took me on this journey of discovering me. How many of you know, and I said it a few years ago, the Lord isn't saving you from external forces. He's saving you from you. He saves us from our decisions and the weight of those, because we all think, every single one of us, our way is best. We think our thoughts are the right thoughts, our ways are the right ways, but his thoughts are so much higher than our thoughts, and his ways are so much higher than our ways. And so all-knowing Selena, smart Selena, academic scholarship Selena, have it all planned out. My life is scripted, but I wrote the script. My script had to submit to his script because he's not mighty, he's almighty. He's not powerful, he's all powerful. And somewhere in there, I gave him authority in my life. So my life is what it is. I have 4 adult children. I'm skipping the pages, skipping chapters. I have 4 adult babies. 2 of them are here. My oldest and my youngest are here. The girls. The boys in the middle, they're not here. And I'm thankful for their presence. But the Lord literally, has he rewritten anybody's life? It's not what you planned it. It's not how you thought it was going to be. I remember struggling after my sophomore year in college when the Lord called me home. And he didn't just call me home to pursue a career, knowing how I was wired, and that's what I would respond to. He said, you're going home to get married. I didn't even have a boyfriend. I had like guys I was interested in, but I didn't have a boyfriend, if you guys follow me. But he sent me home to get married. Part of that was my 2 best friends had gotten married. Samana got married first, and I was in her wedding. This isn't her story, so I'm not going to tell the wedding dress story. And then Carmen got married. So these were my 2. This was like my A1s got married. What are you doing? You're messing up the plan. But no, they followed the leading of the Lord and got married. And I said, I'm not going to be out here by myself and be 50 years old looking for a husband. That's not my life, because I also wanted to get married, but it was like around age 45 after the Supreme Court, after all that. So, but I got married, and I'm skipping a few decades. So the Me Too movement happens. This is way into my marriage. This is like a few years ago. So it had been a long thing. So the Me Too movement happens, and what do you think it brings up in me? And I remember, I don't remember names, but there was a confirmation hearing for some guy, and the woman that was like his college student or something was testifying, and I said, her testimony arrested me. It stopped me in my tracks. And I stood in my bedroom with the TV on listening, and I didn't move for like an hour. I stood there. My husband comes in the room, and he stood for a few minutes, and he was like, I don't know. I don't know if she's telling the truth or not. I said, she is. He said, how do you know? I said, I feel it. She's not lying. He said something that was just something, and it triggered something. and I completely lost it. And it was so severe that he just stood there in shock, and he just turned. He let me finish, but he turned and walked away. And I just stood there for another 10 minutes. I went and followed him to apologize. But part of the apology was also an explanation of why her words hit me like they did, because they were true. And I couldn't deny that they were true, because what didn't affect me was still there. So we're going to flash forward again to 2 years ago at Women on Purpose. The Lord brings this back up again in his grace. And he brings it up before me. He had brought it up then, and I was so nervous. I had went and talked to my mom, and I'm like, okay, I need to tell you this happened. And I might have to talk about it publicly, but I'm like, why would God do that? It's not even a thing. So we've been injured in places we don't acknowledge. So that injury can't even heal because we won't even admit that it's there. And as women, it means we walk around with a limp. We think we're sashaying somewhere. That's not how it looks. We think it's a cute walk. No, it's a gimpy walk. So a couple of years ago, I mentioned it. I gave a slight, I'm not going to pay homage to this. This is that, it's not even a thing. I don't know what the Lord is doing. This is just me. He doesn't really want me to talk about this. But he brought it up. I mentioned it, kept going. Well, here we are 2 years later, 2, 3, something. Anyway, he brings it up again last year, and I'm thinking, Now, mind you, I'm going to fill in the gaps for you. In between this and that, 2015, I get in the car to go to church. I wake up in the ER. Get in the car with my kids and my husband. I don't know all the drama, and it's a dramatic story. It's such a good story, and I love good stories. I know I was in the ER, but it was a good story. It was a really good. So the end is, you guys see me today. I didn't die, but I thought it was possible. I'm 5'3". I had a blood clot from my thigh to my lower leg and my right leg, and the blood clots had broken off and gone through my heart and filled both of my lungs. So that was just one of the things they found while I was there. Y'all, I was in the hospital talking to people. I thought the room was like this mega suite, and like it was designed beautifully. Like whatever I was experiencing, whatever pain medicine I was on, it was just having a whole lot of effects. So, but I had a couple of years of recovery from that, but I didn't recover emotionally. I recovered to an extent physically. Lived in fear for a long time. I kept thinking every time I get a pain in my leg, it's that. Every time I get a cramp, it's a blood clot. Every time something happened. It also traumatized my family because they didn't know either. My daughters became my caretakers. My husband was making smoothies, beet juice, and all kinds of stuff. I was being spoiled, and I kind of loved it. But anyway, so that was that. I went through a couple of years of that, 3 teams of doctors, surgery the next year. My mother called me, that was 2015, 2016, my mother calls and says, I'm going to go see mommy at the nursing home. Do you want to go? And I said, yeah, because if I don't have a feeling, I won't see her again, my grandmother. And I went with her to see my grandmother, and I went into the hospital for surgery. I was still a follow-up from all of that. And my grandmother passed while I was in the hospital. So that happened. It's just a thing. But anyway, flash forward a couple of years ago. I don't remember the date. I should remember dates. But we were having our kitchen remodeled. I'm all excited, but I'm stressed. We'd also suffered great loss. I'll just say my first 2 grandsons are not with us. My first grandson is buried with my father. And my second grandson is buried with my great-grandmother. And if you guys are connected to me on Facebook and you see a little green-eyed bandit named Lily on my Facebook page, she is spoiled to the moon and back on purpose, because the Lord showed her to me before she ever got here, before she was conceived, showed her to me in a dream, and I held her. And I knew that my daughter would have a daughter. And I loved her. I'll say I loved her to life. because I believe God. But I was diagnosed with MS. We were remodeling the kitchen, and the day they finally finished, a 30-day job that took 90 days, the day they finally finished, we're moving furniture back, and I'm helping my husband, and I've been having these, I didn't call them episodes. I don't remember what I called them back then, but these little things happening where I felt like I was losing feeling for like a second somewhere, like, and it was kind of like a zinger, like that zingy feeling, but then it would pass. So we're moving furniture, and I felt my entire right side disappear. And I paused, and it went away. So I go to move something else, and it happened again, and it wasn't going away. So I remember making my way to the couch barely to sit and calling my husband in and saying, okay, something's wrong. I think I'm having a stroke. Go to the hospital, don't go to the ER. Just don't do that. You'll be there for hours for no reason. So we ended up, long story short, going to see a neurologist for an MRI. I got the MRI, went to see the neurologist, horrible bedside manner. I had my first panic attack in that office when he told me that my beautiful, beloved brain would shrink to the size of a mouse and I'd be in a wheelchair within 6 months. So I'm literally hyperventilating and crying and screaming, I don't understand. Like talking to the Lord. Nobody else was in the room, even though there were multiple people. I'm saying, God, I don't understand this. I'm crying and sobbing and saying, what is this? The size of a mouse in 6 months in a wheelchair? I know I don't exercise, Lord. I'm not about that life. I don't even pretend. But I do like the activity of my limbs. Y'all, things make sense. First, giving honor to God, I want to thank the Lord for the activity of my limbs. I want to thank the Lord for waking me up in my right mind. All of a sudden, it made sense because it was a real thing. That was, Kayla, help me out. Was that 2019? That was 2019, y'all. We in 2024. I have not seen a wheelchair. My brain has not shrunk. Now, the neurologist still holds. I had the picture of my brain. No, well, I should have sent pictures to be on the screen because I thought that was a beautiful thing. I'm in the neurologist's office, and he holds up the scan of my brain, and I thought, oh, that is amazing. Like, God is so amazing. Do you see that brain? That is a beautiful brain, and there's so much information in it, and I'm marveling. Can I have a picture? Can you send that to me? Because I want to print that out. Like, this is, who gets to see their brain? So I'm like in awe of God at this. And then he says, yeah, you can have a picture. It's not going to look like that. How many of you believe it still looks like that? Because God is God. Because God is God. Okay, last part of the story. Yep, I'm doing good. Okay, I'm doing good. Wait, I don't know what you said, but I'm doing good. Okay. So I'm getting back to the end, y'all, which what led to today. So that depression, that anxiety I was dealing with over the years, I wasn't even aware that it had grown because that's because the enemy is an ancient and treacherous foe. He's just evil. He's just ugly. His breath stinks. He doesn't take showers. He's got body odor, all of it. He's like, you don't even want to be around. You smell him coming because he doesn't have good intentions for you. Don't be friends with the enemy. They used to tell us, don't play patty cake with the devil. He's not your friend. And some of us in here have been dabbling in witchcraft, dabbling in Christian witchcraft because that's the thing now. No, it's not. It's a lie from the enemy. It's a lie. We're searching for power. But where does power come from? Power belongs to God and him alone. And him alone. So all this stuff is happening, but I gave my life to the Lord. I gave it to him. Like I think I'm just like one of the best people on the planet. And like, Lord, I gave you me. What are you doing? Like, this is not the plan. But we give the Lord our life so that he can do what he wills with us, all to bring about his glory in the earth. We don't give him our life so we can do what we want to do. That means we didn't give him anything. We kept it. We just played a game. It was lip service. Did you really mean it? Because he's going to test you. Did you mean it? So when I went into early labor with my oldest daughter, did you really mean it? When I had to have procedures with every pregnancy, did you really, just to keep them, did you really mean it? When I was married 20 years, was it Justine? I don't know names. Where are you? Okay. When I was married 20 years and I had to repent and tell the Lord, I'm so sorry for every Christian woman I judged because I didn't understand their story and how you get to 20 years and got kids and walk away and let go. When I got to that point with my husband and we fought for 3 years, not that we hadn't fought, because if you know me, we fought. But when we actually were contending and had to decide if we still, and nobody understands this that knows, no, if you know me, you understand. But if you know him, you don't understand. Like, how? Because it was a thing and an underlying thing. And we all have underlying things that we need to surrender to the Lord. So the Lord he gave me this group of friends. They are phenomenal, and they don't cater to me, one of them in particular. I went to Tennessee to see my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and I had a friend I hadn't seen, and I'm wrapping up. I had a friend I hadn't seen in years, and I don't know why we hadn't talked in years, but she's one of those friends that does not respect your personal boundaries. She's going to get in your face and say whatever needs to be said, whether you like it or not. And so I hadn't seen her, and I walked into the room, and I was with my sister-in-law for Bible study, and her husband, who's also a friend of mine from way back, he sees me across the room and yells my name, and I feel welcome and comes to greet me. She walks in, and I was covering very closely what that neurologist said. I didn't want it talked about. I didn't want people sharing the story. It's my story. If I want to tell it, I'll tell it. I don't want to be on anybody's prayer list because I don't know people praying, and people don't pray right all the time. So I didn't want everybody just arbitrarily praying for me. But I walked in there, and this friend walks in the room. And she walks right up to me, and I blurt out everything like water. Because even though we hadn't talked in years, and it was my fault, I got annoyed by something. And y'all, relationships are everything. But I got irritated. No, I got offended by something. I don't even know what. But she did something. I was like, okay, I'm good. I blurted everything out, and she got in my face because this is her idea of space. And she's sitting there, so she knows what I'm saying. Look, her mother's sitting there too. She knows I ain't lying. This is her idea. She got in my face and said, Selena, you're not sick. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You just need to forgive. And walked away. And I felt a gut punch, a throat chop all at one time, and she was gone before I could respond. I didn't know what I needed to forgive, but I started going through relationships that needed restoration. And then it was 2 years later, the Lord brought me to 2 weeks before we went to a conference. The Lord literally began to deal with me about that thing. And if you don't give that to me, I can't use you. But I've given you my life. What do you mean? No, you gave me what you wanted to give me. But if you don't give that to me and let me use it for my glory, then I can't use you. So, long story short, I gave it to him. And he healed me. I gave it to him, and he healed me. And it wasn't like this big poof thing that we think. It was literally a healing as I went. And I'm still experiencing his healing every day as I go. As I go. So when I fell down these steps yesterday, they're not intimidating today. My greatest fear was falling, was losing my balance and falling. So in my rush, I just went step, bloop, just missed, overstepped. Rather than magnifying that and it meaning everything, I heard my mother's voice saying that when you were young, they considered you uninsurable because they called you accident prone. We're not going to go into that story. So the accident prone on the floor, got up. I didn't make it bigger than it was because, where's Marlo? Because God is bigger than the boogeyman. He's bigger than Godzilla and the monsters on TV. God is bigger than whatever our fears are, whatever we're worried about. He's bigger. And just like the last time, those are not my notes. Just like the last time, I only hit a couple of scriptures, but I hope you guys get the point. That he's bigger, he's faithful, he's walking in each of our lives every day with us, the little things, the big things, all the things. He's there and he's faithful, he's faithful, he's faithful. So I'm going to take 30 seconds and I'm going to introduce the next speaker because all these pages, y'all, I'm 50 years old, I told you that. But I put all these scriptures in big print so I could see them up here. And I just want to make sure there's nothing I needed brought to mind that I missed. No, I want to encourage as Brandy prepares to come. I want to encourage you, if you're young and married, God is faithful. If you're having children, God is faithful. If you want children, God is faithful. If you have committed to being a one-income family and you're a stay-at-home mom and what your husband's bringing in is just not making it, God is faithful. I told my husband early in our marriage, I'm not worried about you because God takes care of me. That's what fell. Thank you, babe. I heard it fall. I just didn't turn to get it. God is the one who takes care of me. He always has. Now he's just going to use you to do it. So I'm home with these kids. You're going to work, but God is my provider. Let him be your provider because he's a better provider than anybody here. If you've had a call in your life from the time you were young and don't know where God is and if it's ever going to happen, just wait. Just wait. While you're becoming, you're going to come in contact with the time that he preset for you to be you. But you got to become you first and not the you planned, the you he designed you to be. Get to becoming so he can do what he planned to do in you before the world was framed. Amen.